Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Wealthy Good Life podcast. Today, we're going to do a deep dive into something that's pretty important to a lot of people,
Mm-hmm.
the connection between owning a home and reaching financial independence.
It's a big one, and it's something that people have a lot of different ideas about.
Exactly, and we're going to try to unpack all of that today.
We're going to hear some really inspiring stories and talk about some strategies that have worked for other people.
Definitely, but we're also going to look at some of the potential downsides too, so we can
Right.
paint a really complete picture.
Absolutely.
So yeah, why don't we jump right in?
Sounds good.
So, one of the stories that really stood out to me was Heather Dean's.
Okay, yeah.
She's a sales VP. And she used to think that owning a home was like more of a burden than a benefit.
Interesting.
Yeah, she moved around a lot for her job and never really felt like settling down.
Makes sense.
It wasn't until she and her wife moved to San Francisco that things kind of changed.
Yeah, San Francisco is a whole other ballgame when it comes to housing.
Exactly. The rents there are just crazy
Oh,
high.
yeah.
So all of a sudden, the idea of having a mortgage just started to look like a way better deal.
Yeah, for sure.
Dean's story kind of highlights how your location can have a huge impact on your financial decisions.
Absolutely. But it also brings up a common misconception that renting is always throwing your money away.
Yeah, I think a lot of people feel that way.
It's easy to think that when you see those rent checks going out every month and you're not building any equity.
Right.
But it's not always that simple.
So can you explain a little bit more about why that is?
Sure, when you own a home, part of each mortgage payment you make goes towards paying down the principal,
Okay,
which is the original amount you borrowed, so that gradually increases your ownership stake
got it.
or your equity in the property.
So it's like you're slowly buying more and more of your house with each payment.
Exactly. You're building wealth over time. Now, when you rent,
Yeah,
you're paying for a place to live, but those payments don't contribute to anything that you actually own.
right. They just go to your landlord.
Exactly. So in a way, it's kind of like you're investing in your landlord's future instead of your own.
Okay, that makes sense.
And that equity you build in a home can really grow, especially if your home increases in value over time.
Like we've seen in a lot of places.
Exactly. There's another great example of this with Jennifer Bailey.
Okay, what does she do?
She bought a fixer-upper, put in a lot of work to improve it,
Wow,
and then sold it for a profit.
nice. So she basically turned her sweat equity into real equity.
Exactly. And then she used that profit to buy an even bigger house.
That's awesome. So she basically used her first home as a stepping stone to something even better.
That's the idea. It's a great example of how strategic homeownership can help you build wealth.
It's inspiring to hear stories like that.
It is, and it seems like more and more people are starting to see the potential of homeownership for building financial security.
You're right. There was a study done by Pew Research,
Mm-hmm.
and they found that 72% of renters in the U.S. are hoping to own a home at some point.
Wow, that's a lot of people.
It is. And a lot of them said they want to do it for financial security.
I can see why. Building equity in a home gives you a sense of stability and control.
Exactly. It's like having a solid foundation to build your future on.
Definitely.
But even though there are all these potential benefits, it's super important to buy a home that you can actually afford.
Could not agree more. That's key.
So let's say a couple has a net worth of $350,000,
Okay.
and they decide to put down 20% on a $350,000 house.
Oh, right.
That would mean their down payment is $70,000,
Right.
which is a pretty big chunk of their net worth.
Yeah, for sure.
And then they'd have a yearly housing expense of around $19,200.
That's something to think about. You know, you can actually multiply that $19,200 by 25.
Oh, really? Why 25?
It's a way to figure out how much you would need to have invested to cover that housing expense with just the returns on your investments.
Oh, interesting. So it kind of shows you how homeownership fits into your overall financial picture.
Exactly. It helps you see how much you'd need to have saved up to be financially independent, even with those housing costs.
That's a really helpful way to think about it.
Glad you think so.
And for anyone who wants to dive deeper into these kinds of calculations and learn more about making smart financial decisions, you can check out wealthygoodlife.com.
Absolutely. There's a ton of great information on there.
But okay, so we've been talking a lot about the good stuff.
The upsides.
Yeah, but we also have to be realistic about the potential downsides of homeownership.
Oh, for sure. It's not all sunshine and roses.
Definitely not. There are always those hidden costs that can really sneak up on you.
Yes. Things like property taxes, insurance maintenance.
And of course, those unexpected repairs that always seem to happen at the worst possible time.
Oh, yeah. Those can really throw a wrench in your budget.
For sure. And on top of all that, there's always the risk that your house won't increase in value as much as you were hoping.
Yeah, that's a real possibility. You might not even end up better off than if you had just rented.
Especially if you don't stay in the house for very long.
Right. It takes time to build up enough equity to really make a difference.
Yeah, my parents actually learned that the hard way. They lived in the same house for like 26 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and when they finally sold it, they basically broke even.
Oof. It's like they were renting all those years, but with a lot more responsibility.
Exactly. So it's definitely not a guaranteed path to riches.
Nope. It's all about timing and making smart decisions.
And being aware of the potential risks involved.
Absolutely. It's all about finding those strategies that can really help you leverage homeownership to reach your financial goals.
Yeah, and one strategy that I've heard more and more about is this thing called house hacking.
Oh, yeah, house hacking. It's becoming super popular.
So for someone who's never heard of it before, how would you explain what that actually means?
So basically, it's when you buy a property with multiple units, like a duplex or a triplex.
Okay,
You live in one of the units and you rent out the others.
so you're kind of becoming a landlord in a way.
Exactly. But the cool thing is that the rent from the other units can help offset or even completely cover your mortgage payments.
Wow, so you could potentially live for free.
Exactly. That's the ultimate goal with house hunting.
That sounds pretty amazing, but I guess you have to be okay with being a landlord, right?
Yeah, that's definitely something to consider. It comes with its own set of responsibilities like screening tenants and dealing with maintenance issues.
Right, so it's not for everyone.
Definitely not. But if you're up for the challenge, it can be a really powerful way to build wealth and reach financial independence faster.
So it's like a more hands-on approach to real estate investing.
Exactly. And speaking of real estate investing, another strategy you could look into is using HELOCs.
HELOCs, okay, I'm not familiar with that term.
It stands for Home Equity Line of Credit.
Okay, what is that exactly?
Basically, it's a way to borrow money against the equity you've built up in your home.
So it's like a loan, but it's secured by your house.
Exactly. And you can use that money for a lot of different things like renovations or even to buy another property.
Oh, wow, so you could use it to buy a rental property.
Exactly. That's one of the most popular ways to use a HELOC. You could buy another rental property, and then the rent from that property could help you pay off the HELOC.
So it's like using your home's equity to leverage even more investments.
Exactly. And the more properties you own, the more passive income you can generate.
It's like a snowball effect.
Exactly. But of course, HELOCs come with their own risks and considerations, just like any other type of loan.
Right, you have to be careful not to overextend yourself.
Absolutely. You need to make sure you can afford the payments and that you're comfortable with the terms of the loan.
I think it's important to do your research and really understand how HELOCs work before jumping in.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And that brings us to another really important point: market research.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
Whether you're buying your first home or you're a seasoned investor, it's crucial to understand the real estate market in your area.
Right, you don't want to just buy any house, you have to buy the right house.
Exactly. You want to look for properties in areas with strong potential for growth.
Okay, so how do you do that?
There are a lot of different factors to consider, like the local job market, the schools, the crime rates.
Right, so you really have to do your homework.
Absolutely. And there are some great online resources that can help you with this. It's like rent versus buy calculators that can help you estimate the potential cash flow and return on investment for different properties.
Oh, those sound helpful.
They are. And speaking of helpful resources, don't forget to check out wealthygoodlife.com.
Yes, a great reminder. They have a ton of great articles and tools to help you make smart financial decisions.
Absolutely. So yeah, when it comes to homeownership, knowledge is definitely power.
For sure. So let's dive a little deeper into some specific strategies for maximizing the financial benefits of homeownership.
Okay, sounds good.
For example, I've heard that buying a property with 2 to 4 units can be a really effective approach.
Oh yeah, that's a great strategy. It's like taking house hacking to the next level.
Okay, so how does that work?
So instead of just having one rental unit, you have multiple units.
Oh, so you could generate even more passive income.
Exactly. It can really accelerate your wealth building.
That's awesome. But I imagine it's also a lot more work.
It can be, yeah. You're basically running a small business at that point.
Right, so you need to be prepared for that.
Definitely. But the potential rewards can be huge.
Okay, so if someone is thinking about going this route, what should they keep in mind?
Well, first of all, they need to make sure they're comfortable with the responsibilities of being a landlord.
Right, dealing with tenants and all that.
Exactly. And they also need to have a solid financial foundation.
So they need to make sure they can afford the mortgage payments even if one of the units is vacant.
Exactly. It's all about managing risk.
Makes sense. And speaking of risk, let's talk about appreciation.
Okay, good topic. Appreciation is basically the increase in a property's value over time.
Right, so if you buy a house for $300,000 and it's worth $400,000 a few years later, that's appreciation.
Exactly. And that's how you make money in real estate.
But appreciation isn't guaranteed, is it?
No, not at all. There are a lot of factors that can affect how much a property appreciates.
Like what?
Things like the location, the condition of the property, the overall economy.
So you really have to do your research and choose your investments carefully.
Absolutely. And you also have to be patient. Real estate is a long-term investment. It usually takes several years to see significant appreciation.
Right, it's not a get-rich-quick scheme.
Definitely not. It takes time and effort.
But if you do your homework and make smart decisions, it can be a really rewarding investment.
I completely agree. And speaking of smart decisions, let's talk about interest rates.
Okay, yeah, interest rates are a big deal when it comes to homeownership.
Absolutely. They can have a huge impact on your monthly payments and your overall return on investment.
So when interest rates are low, it's a good time to buy a house.
Generally speaking, yes, lower interest rates mean you'll pay less in interest over the life of your loan.
Okay, but interest rates can go up too, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And when they do, your monthly payments can increase.
So that's something to be aware of.
Definitely. It's important to understand the different types of mortgages available and choose one that aligns with your financial goals and risk tolerance.
Right, like there are fixed rate mortgages and adjustable rate mortgages.
Exactly. With a fixed rate mortgage, your interest rate stays the same for the entire term of the loan.
So your payments are predictable.
Exactly. But with an adjustable rate mortgage, your interest rate can fluctuate.
Oh, so your payments could go up or down.
Right. It can be a little riskier, but it can also be a good option if you're planning to stay in the house for a shorter period of time.
So it really depends on your individual circumstances.
Absolutely. And remember, you can always refinance your mortgage later on if interest rates drop or your financial situation changes.
That's a good point. It's all about staying informed and being flexible.
Exactly. Now, before we move on, I want to emphasize something that's often overlooked in the homeownership discussion:
What's that?
the importance of building a solid financial foundation.
Okay, so what does that mean?
It means having a clear understanding of your income, your expenses, and your overall financial goals.
Right, so you need to know where your money's going.
Exactly. You need to create a budget, track your spending, and build up an emergency fund.
Right, those are all good financial habits regardless of whether you're renting or buying.
Absolutely. And it's especially important if you're thinking about taking on the responsibility of homeownership.
So you need to make sure you're financially prepared for the unexpected.
Exactly. And speaking of being prepared, one of the biggest challenges for many aspiring homeowners is saving for a down payment.
Yeah, that could be a lot of money.
It can be, especially with the rising cost of housing.
So what are some tips for saving for a down payment?
Well, the most important thing is to start early and be consistent. Set up automatic transfers to a dedicated savings account.
So you don't even have to think about it.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to get creative. There are side hustles you can do, freelance opportunities you can explore, and even cashback apps that can help you save money.
So every little bit helps.
Absolutely. And remember, the more you can save for a down payment, the less you'll have to borrow, which means you'll pay less in interest over the life of your loan.
That's a great motivator. But even with all the best planning and preparation, sometimes it's still helpful to have a little extra guidance.
Oh, absolutely. Working with a financial advisor or a real estate agent can be incredibly valuable.
What can they help you with?
They can help you assess your financial situation, explore different financing options, and find the right property that aligns with your goals.
So they can kind of help you navigate the whole process.
Exactly. They're there to answer your questions, address your concerns, and help you avoid costly mistakes.
It sounds like having that expert guidance can make a big difference.
It really can. Buying a home is a major financial decision, and it's always a good idea to have experienced professionals in your corner.
I agree. So for anyone who's feeling overwhelmed by the whole process, don't be afraid to reach out for help.
Absolutely. There are people out there who can help you make the right choices for your situation. It's not just about the numbers, though, is it?
Right? There's definitely a lot more to homeownership than just the financial side of things.
Exactly. It's also about the feeling you get from owning your own place.
Yeah, it's hard to describe, but there's definitely a sense of pride and accomplishment that comes with it.
Absolutely. And it's about having a place that's truly yours, a place where you can put down roots and create a space that reflects your personality.
It's about having a place where you can just relax and be yourself.
Exactly. And for a lot of people, homeownership also means feeling more connected to their community.
Right. You're more likely to get involved in local events and support local businesses when you own a home in the neighborhood.
And you're more likely to get to know your neighbors and build those relationships.
It's about creating a sense of belonging.
Exactly.
And let's not forget about the feeling of stability and security that comes with homeownership.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one. Knowing that you have a place to call your own can really reduce stress and give you peace of mind.
Especially in today's world where things can feel so uncertain.
Absolutely. It's like having a solid foundation to build your life on.
And for families with kids, I think homeownership can be even more meaningful.
Oh, for sure. It gives kids a sense of stability and continuity.
It's about creating a place where they can grow up and feel safe and loved.
Exactly. And it's about creating memories that will last a lifetime.
It's not always easy, though, is it?
No, homeownership definitely comes with its challenges.
There are always going to be unexpected repairs and property taxes, and maybe even a noisy neighbor or two.
Yeah, but for most people, the rewards far outweigh the challenges.
It's about finding joy in the process and appreciating all the unique experiences that come with owning a home.
Absolutely. It's about creating a space that truly feels like home.
A place where you can make memories and build a life that you love.
Exactly.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought.
Okay, what's that?
In a world that can feel increasingly chaotic and unpredictable, homeownership can be a source of grounding and permanence.
I like that. It's a reminder that no matter what's going on in the world, you always have a place where you belong.
Exactly, a place where you can create a life that feels both meaningful and secure.
And for anyone who wants to learn more about homeownership and financial independence, I highly recommend checking out wealthygoodlife.com.
Yes, they have tons of great resources, articles, calculators, real-life stories, all designed to help you make smart decisions and achieve your financial goals.
It's a great resource for anyone who's looking to take control of their finances and build a brighter future.
Well, that's all the time we have for today, but we hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of homeownership and financial independence.
It's been a pleasure talking about this with you.
Thanks for joining us. And remember, the path to financial freedom is a journey, not a destination.
That's right. And homeownership, when done thoughtfully, can be a powerful tool to help you create a life that's both financially secure and personally fulfilling.
Thank you for listening to the Wealthy Good Life podcast. We'll catch you next time.